We got about 25 seconds before we bring this back to the live radio audience. So if you guys can get settled in, we'll be underway in just a minute.
Getting ready to make the light flash.
All right, everybody. We're ready to get our mayor's debate started. Real quick before we get underway, just want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up of the rules. All of our candidates are here. We had them draw numbers just a moment ago for the order that they will start off in. They're sitting in that order. We'll go ahead and introduce everybody. And throughout the night, as they answer questions, we'll probably reintroduce them for the radio audience that do not have a visual, okay? First, in the number 1 slot here is Democratic candidate for mayor, David Pennington. Next is incumbent and Republican candidate for mayor, Gary Cordell. After that, we have independent candidate for mayor, Tim Brown. He will not be on the ballot for the primary, but he will be on that for the general. After that, we have Republican candidate for mayor, Mark Allen. And then down at the end, we have Democratic candidate for mayor, John Constantine. We're going to allow 2 minutes for opening statements from everybody. After that, we have several questions that we will go through. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer those questions, and we'll keep that on a timer and let them know when their time is up. If we need to go back and forth a little bit, if someone's addressed and we need to have a rebuttal for an answer, they will have 1 minute for that, okay? But let's start it off with opening remarks, and we'll go first with David Pennington.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Pennington, and I am the Democratic candidate. I was born and raised in Tullahoma. In 1965, we moved to Manchester and bought the Jiffy Burger.
There we go.
All right, yeah, okay. For 53 years, we've had the Jiffy Burger, and not only have we had the Jiffy Burger, we've had a trucking company, a warehousing company, storage trailer company, and a small rental company. I was the mayor of this county for 8 years, and at the time, everybody knows of the recession, so we went through some of the toughest times that you could during this recession. So I'm asking you, as a candidate, to vote for me, David Pennington.
All right, next will be Republican candidate Gary Cordell.
My name is Gary Cordell, and it is an honor to serve you as your current county mayor. The last 4 years have certainly been a learning experience, and going into this, we made the commitment for 8 years that we would serve in this office with honesty and integrity and make the right decisions for our taxpayers every day. It's been a learning experience.
Just a second, Mayor. If you could just turn that microphone up towards you a little bit. Just
okay.
There, tilt it backwards just a little. There we go.
All
That's
right.
right.
Hope you hear me now. But it is an honor to serve you. And we take our every day as a new experience. We're learning all the time. We're trying to be the best mayor that we can in this county. My goal is to, when I finally go home and mission accomplished, to say that I've served with honesty and integrity, and I've been the best mayor in Coffee County's history. Part of that, and doing part of that is, as Mr. Mark Sohn said a while ago, several of us have really gone to a lot of classes that the University of Tennessee County Technical Assistance Service provides. And with that in mind, we've worked hard to try to learn all we can about this office and to be the best mayor we can. With that in mind, I've received also the Certified Public Administrator Certificate, and as has the Register of Deeds and Mr. Mark Sohn. So we're trying to be the best public servants we can for this county. My wife and I lived in Hillsboro for 33 years. We have a small farm there. We've raised 2 sons, and we have 8 grandchildren. And part of my purpose in being here today is to help be the best mayor I can and create a positive foundation for our county to build on going forward. we've got to always keep in mind what is best for our young people and the next generation. And it's an honor to serve, and I'll have more comments in a few moments, but we're here to serve our people and to make the right decision for our taxpayers every day, trying to keep our taxpayers low. But it's an honor to serve you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate all of you being here.
Thank you, Mayor Cordell. Next will be independent candidate for mayor, Tim Brown.
My name's Tim Brown. I'm born and raised here in Coffee County all my life. I'm a 30-year veteran of the United States Army, retired. I'm running independent because I want to represent all the people of Coffee County. I have friends in both parties, and I want to work with Democrats, Republicans, and independents to do what's right for Coffee County. There's no room for partisan politics in the mayor's office. I would like to hope that all voters would vote based on the candidate's ideas instead of the letter beside their name. We've got a lot of good candidates. I'm not asking you to vote for me, just make the right choice. Thank you.
All right, that was Tim Brown. Next we have Republican candidate for mayor, Mark Allen.
Hello, I'm Mark Allen. I am a father, a husband, and a grandfather, not a politician. I've served 35 years as a public servant in various roles. An auditor with the state of Tennessee, Auditon County Governments, a finance director for the city, director of accounts and budgets for the county, and spent the last 10 years in an accounting firm down in Tullahoma. Currently, I chose to run for this office. There's one message that I want to give everybody. Please get out and vote. This is your county. Make sure, no matter who you vote for, make sure you vote. And if you want to make Coffee County accountable again, vote Mark Allen for Coffee County Mayor.
All right, thank you. That was Mark Allen. And next we have Democratic candidate for mayor, John Constantine.
I'm John Constantine. I'm 50 years old. Married to a beautiful wife. Have 5 beautiful children, 2 precious granddaughters, one a year and a half old and one just a month old. I was born and raised in Rutherford County, but I started my first business in 1985 in Coffee County and have businesses here ever since. Probably best known for the LKQ facility located at the corner of 41 and Asbury Road. I started that company in 1996, grew it rapidly, sold the company to LKQ, stayed on as a stockholder and worked with them to take the company public. So I learned a lot about how big businesses operate. The reason I'm running for mayor is for the last 12, 15 years, I've been very disappointed in the direction that the county has gone in, especially when it pertains to taxation and debt. We have the 3rd highest property tax rate in the state out of 95 counties, and I just don't agree with that. And I think that I'm the person that can put in place, it's a simple fix. You either have to raise taxes or cut expenses. But you can do a mixture of both that's both good for the county and good for the taxpayer. And that's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
All right, we want to move on to the questions, and how we're going to do this is they have 2 minutes to answer each question. They do have 1 minute for rebuttals, and we want to let you know, first of all, these questions have come submitted to Josh at the paper through you guys. We promoted on the radio, we've talked about it, a lot. We've also, Josh has published a lot about this. So these questions came from you, the people of Coffee County. So we want to make sure that we, announce that yes, it came from you, and this is what people are thinking about in this election. So we go with our first question tonight. There is currently no signed operating contract between the county government and Bonnaroo. The previous contract offered a flat yearly payment of $30,000 and $3 per ticket sold, and a payment of cost over plus the cost of overtime for local emergency agencies. So the revenue from the ticket fee were placed into the general fund. The new contract proposed for Bonnaroo eliminates the $30,000 payment, increases ticket fees to $4 per ticket, but stipulates that the money just be placed in an infrastructure fund to use for improvements near the Great Stage Park. Do you believe this is a fair deal for the citizens of Coffee County? If not, do you have a plan that you would like to talk about this evening? Goes to David first. David first.
Okay. The rural infrastructure, the Bonnaroo Fund has, you're exactly right, went into the general fund. It usually generates between $225 and $250. But if you want Bonnaroo to stay here and let them use that $4, and of course the ticket sales, the patron pays the $4. So that $4 is invested back into infrastructure at Bonnaroo. Now what does that mean? There's a lot of real estate developers in here, and they know that an empty field is not worth nothing like a field with water and sewer and cut up lots. That adds value to your property. And not only does it add value, it adds more taxes. So I would negotiate a deal and let the $4 go back into the rural infrastructure, into the Bonnaroo infrastructure, and you would eventually, from the investment of the infrastructure, you'll eventually get that money back from other events. Now, you're going to get some of that money back right off the top from the property tax, but also keep in mind that the rural last year got over $700,000 in sales tax from the tickets.
30 seconds.
$700,000 in sales tax from the tickets sales. I'm talking about ticket sales on the sales tax. The rural is the one that gets the extra $700,000, and that's the only time the rural ever has a big bump in their property taxes. It usually runs between $200,000 and $225,000. This year it was $922,000. So if you back that off, it's about $700,000 goes back into the rural. And where does that first $700,000 go? First half of that goes to the schools, and then the second half goes back into the rural. It's called SIDUS. It's where the money is formed, whether it be Manchester or Tullahoma. Now, if you don't negotiate,
That's time. If you want to wrap up what you're saying, that'll be fine.
Okay. So if you don't negotiate some type of deal, you're going to lose a lot of revenue all the way around.
Mayor Cordell, do you need me to repeat the question? Okay. Currently, no signed operating contract between the county government and Bonnaroo. The previous contract offered a flat yearly payment of $30,000 plus $3 per ticket sold and payment of cost of overtime for personnel for local emergency services. The revenue from these ticket sales or ticket fees were placed into the general fund. The new contract proposed by Bonnaroo eliminates the $30,000 payment, increasing ticket sales or ticket fees to $4 per ticket, but stipulates that money be placed into an infrastructure fund to use on improvements to the Great Stage Park. Do you believe that this is a fair deal to the citizens of Coffee County? And if not, do you have a plan that you'd like to talk about?
Luckily, this has been a fair deal in the past. We are in intense discussions right now with Bonnaroo, and I know our Budget and Finance Committee met this afternoon. That has generated over, as was said, over $230,000-$240,000 per year on the ticket sales. That was put in place with the beginning of Bonnaroo 16 or 17 years ago. That contract did run out last June. We have talked with them, and I've suggested in the past here that you simply go ahead for this year, since we're in these discussions, and just simply continue the $3 that you were paying last year plus the $30,000. So we are in intense discussion with them. They are talking about other events. It is important that this county invest in our infrastructure, and it is important that we invest in infrastructure out there. They are working on other events. We've yet to see any of those events. I know we've been in discussion regarding the coming of the state fair to Coffee County. We're one of 3 or 4 counties that are in contention to that. I talked recently with the Commissioner of Agriculture regarding that. And also 2 weeks ago, I guess it is, the president of the State Fair Board. I'm not that optimistic that that can come about someday, but we're in discussion with him on that. That would bring a lot of to this county. That'd be more than just a 2-week event. They're guesstimating in a plan that they prepared about 120 or 30 days of activity at that site. So we are in discussion regarding that. Anyway, we'll let you know on those continuing discussions, and I'm somewhat optimistic that they will come back and do the $3 this year, maybe $4. So I just want to report that to you tonight. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brown, do you need me to repeat it?
No, sir.
Okay.
To me, it sounds like we're trying to hold Bonnaroo up. I don't know of any business in town that we require them to sign a contract for them to make money. We need to be better partners to Bonnaroo. Try not to run them off. We need their revenue. Coffee County receives the local option sales tax when all the ticket sales sold, food, beverages, merchandise sold on the Bonnaroo grounds. Local option sales tax is 2.75% of all those sales. In 2017, that totaled over $1 million. They also pay property taxes. The county collects vendor fees, and Bonnaroo uses local small businesses here in town for their site work and other needs. So we need to work with Bonnaroo and quit trying to run them off. That's the reason a lot of times we can't get other businesses in town, because we're trying to rob them. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Allen, do you need me to repeat? Okay.
That'd be good.
Okay, I'll do that. It is a mouthful. So.
Yeah, it is.
There is currently no signed contract between the county government and Bonnaroo. The previous contract offered a flat yearly payment of $30,000 plus the $3 per ticket sold and payment of cost of overtime and personnel for local emergency agencies. The revenue from these ticket fees were placed into the general fund. The new contract proposed by Bonnaroo eliminates the $30,000 payment, increases ticket fees to $4 per ticket, but stipulates that the money just be placed into the infrastructure fund to use for improvements at the Great Stage Park. Do you believe that this is a fair deal for the citizens of Coffee County? And if not, we'd like to hear your plan.
I believe Bonnaroo should be treated as any other business of our county in an ethical manner, with the same rights, privileges, and obligations of any other business of the county. We need to create a business-friendly environment to continue to grow Coffee County and make Coffee County what I know it can be, or what I envision it to be. We need more, and we need to cultivate a good business environment here. Negotiating a contract with the threat of a tax held over their heads, such as an amusement tax, is unethical from a tax levying body. That's why I believe there should be no negotiations. Either levy a tax or don't, which I prefer don't, but they should pay their appropriate share of taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Constantine, do you need it repeated or?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, I'm going to be on the opposite end of everybody up here on this discussion. I've spent many hours on the internet looking at Live Nation concerts and what they pay in amusement taxes across this country, and we absolutely have the worst deal with any of them. They range anywhere from 5 to 10%. Nobody commits any infrastructure dollars like the $750,000 we just gave them to run a water line to their farm, and the $5 million that they want now to run a road to their farm. David did mention development. I've been a developer, and when I developed my first subdivision in Coffee County, I bought the property. I had to hire an engineer to go out and subdivide the property. I had to get it approved through the commission. I had to extend water and sewer lines to that property. I had to build the lines, water and sewer lines on that property to the city specs, build the road to the city specs, and then I had to donate that back to the city. So for them to feel like that they're being mistreated because we're not going to subsidize a $10 billion company by giving them $6.75 million of taxpayer money is absolutely absurd. Nobody else in the country does it. We're the only one that does it. They threaten to move. They threaten that they're going to, or there are always these promises for 16 years. I've heard about the Christian Festival, the Country Festival, the Nashville Fair, the 80s Rock Festival. There's all these festivals that are going to come, but so far they produce nothing. And so when they actually have a contract and they want to produce, they want to come to us and say, hey, we'd like for y'all to invest so we can get the Nashville Fair. They're putting the cart ahead of the horse. They're saying, hey, let's spend your money to improve our property, and that's basically all it improves. And maybe we'll get somebody else in here to bring some revenue in. So I think that it needs to absolutely, the whole system needs to be changed, and it's always been one-sided in their favor. Thank you.
All right. Now, with David's name being mentioned in Mr. Constantine's statement there, David, you will have 1 minute.
Well, I still hold to what I say. Bonnaroo, if you put that infrastructure in with the dollar sales of the ticket sales, you'll grow that back in other sales, but you're also gaining it back when that real estate is developed. You'll also gain some of it back from the value of the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. But we're going to stay on the topic of Bonnaroo here for a moment. Mayor Cordell will have the first chance to answer this one. Staying on topic of Bonnaroo, what is your stance on county and city officials receiving a high volume of Bonnaroo tickets for free? Could that be construed as a bribe, a gift, influence on voting? What is your feeling on any of this?
Doing some research on it, Lucky, that is a good question. Over the years, they have, even when they came here, they did have an understanding years ago that they would give tickets to the personnel that you have mentioned. I would mention that the mayor's office, I'll just mention this right in front, we have no vote in the contract per se. Over the years, 100 tickets has been given to the mayor's office and as tickets. And the first 100 people that call in to put their name on a list, they're down for a ticket. So we don't handle the distribution of tickets. Those actually go to, the names are turned in, and they go by the high school and pick those up. And I would go ahead and mention that if there's any question about a conflict on that, as maybe it's been alluded to, I've instructed Bonnaroo just to go ahead and cut out those 100 tickets come to the mayor's office. That's been a tradition for 16 years, whatever, but to remove any question about a conflict on that, I've instructed them to go ahead and not send those to the mayor's office. Now to the others, over the years they've had the ambassador program where the county employees are involved in that, and they do send some to city officials and whatever. But that's been an effort, a goodwill gesture to the representatives of the county to get out and get involved and to be ambassadors for them to go out and look. For example, the commissioners over the years have been given 2 tickets. They have asked the commissioners to go out and walk over the grounds and give them feedback as to items they think that areas that we're doing right in, doing good in, or areas that we can improve in.
30 seconds.
Now, the commissioners obviously would not pay the price of a ticket to go out and do that, but that's been a goodwill gesture to the commissioners and our employees to do that. So I stand with that and support that, but I have mentioned to them that they can go ahead and cut out the 100 tickets coming to the mayor's office just to remove any concern about any ethical conflict.
Mr. Brown, you're next.
I don't have a lot to say on that because I'm not in the mayor's office, but I think it's unethical because if they give the mayor 100 tickets, they're going to expect something in return whether you say so or not. They're going to be wanting favors and you're going to feel like you're obligated to them. And I have seen those tickets that the county gets in the hands of people selling them. So I would not accept it.
Mr. Allen?
It's a violation of the county ethics policy to accept gifts from anybody. They're in violation of their own ethics policy that could cause termination of a regular county employee. It's unethical to accept gifts and to be voting on something such as a road or infrastructure and water lines out at Monterey, the perception of it is just as bad as the reality of it. Whether there's quid pro quo involved or not, the perception of that is bad, and the tone of government is set at the top. So the people that are following the examples of our leaders, that would be unacceptable behavior for our county employees. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Constantine, you need it repeated?
No, sir.
Okay.
Under my administration, there will absolutely be no free tickets to anybody, any public official, or any county employee. It may be legal, I don't know, I haven't checked that. But everybody in this room knows what's right and what's wrong. And if somebody lays $3,000 worth of tickets down in front of you for free, they might as well lay $3,000 in cash down in front of you for free. And then they come to you and they ask you to vote on things that they need. And right's right, and wrong's wrong, and giving those free tickets to people that make decisions about how we handle their contract and their infrastructure request is just flat wrong.
Mr. Pennington.
Okay, let me straighten up something. First of all, no office gets a ticket. All you do is get an opportunity, a list, to put a name on the list as an ambassador from the county to Bonneville. And how we did it as mayor, and I think the mayor over here does it the same way, we did the first come, first served basis. We have 100 names, not tickets. And we let them, started May the 1st, first come, first served. And to qualify for that, you agree, it even says, there's a contract basically, that if you take this this name, and they give you the right to come to Bonnaroo, which they do give you an armband afterwards, if they choose, I have had some on the list that they did not even let. Some they did and some they didn't. They didn't let the whole 100 sometimes. But if you choose to do that, you agree that if they contact you, that you'll fill out a survey. And it's not just the mayor's office. We were actually the funnel for the whole group. So we funneled all the names through the mayor's office for Bonnaroo, so you'd have one centralized location, and then we turned the names into Bonnaroo. So it was all names, not tickets. And like I said, it was an ambassador. You were an ambassador, and you might get an armband, and you might not. It's not guaranteed. Okay.
All right, I think Tim Brown will take this next question first. With the current fiscal year nearing an end, and the Manchester Coffee County Conference Center projected to lose $330,000 for the year, that will put the center's losses nearing $900,000 over the past 2 years. The average taxpayer appears to be losing patience with this. How do you propose minimizing losses for the conference center and bringing that situation under better fiscal control?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because a lot of people's interested in the conference center. This is an issue that taxpayers feel strongly about. The Public Board Authority, which Mayor Cordell and Mr. Pennington's on, have been very, very patient with this. They've done absolutely nothing. Enough's enough. In the last 2 years of operating losses, the conference center's lost almost $1 million. And what have we done? Nothing. We've done nothing. Manchester and Coffee County split the cost on the conference center. It's supposed to be 50-50. It was built in 2002. $3.5 million project. We are still paying those bonds today. From 2002 to 2017, the operating losses on the conference center is $2.3 million. It's out of control. Losses this year will be close to $400,000. Should have never been built. The burden's on us, the taxpayers. We're paying for this loss. Last year, the losses were close to $500,000. Something must be done about this soon. We've got to do something. We can't keep losing money. Small businesses in town, they don't get bailouts like the conference center. We don't go pay them money to keep operating. If I had a business that's lost $1 million in the last 2 years, I'd close the doors down or sell it. Taxpayers have had enough, and the issue needs to be addressed. And like I said, we've done absolutely nothing to fix it. The oversight's supposed to be done by the Public Building Authority. They have not done their jobs. The last 3 years, 2015, over $300,000 lost. 2016, over $400,000. 2017, over $500,000 lost, gone in the wrong direction, and we have nothing to show for it. We need to close the doors, sell the place, or get somebody there to manage the place that will do it right.
All right, that's time. I'm going to let that come back to this end before we go down the table. I think Mr. Brown addressed David and Gary. Pennington, why don't you go first? 1 minute.
No, I'll tell you what, let the mayor go and just keep going down the line until
All right.
he gets to me. But the mayor does have, he is not on the board, and I'll let him say that.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll come back down to this side. We'll give you guys 3 minutes so we keep it in order. Let's go down to Mark Allen. Do you need the question again?
The conference center should be run as a business. The original projections for the losses at the conference center, including the debt service payments, were only $60,000 a year for 20 years. It is mismanagement at its best. Now, we've got to get it under control. I have the experience to get that under control. We're going to have to set a limit. Every year there's a budget amendment for the increased losses out there. And when they're discussing losses, they're just talking about the operating losses. The original pro forma financial statements that were prepared in the original study called for both the debt service and the operating losses not to exceed $60,000. That's what the city of Manchester agreed to. That's what the county agreed to. Now they're 10 times that. Action has to be taken. Thank you.
All right. That was Mark Allen. Next is John Constantine. John, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, sir. Definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. We have poured millions of dollars into that conference center, and it has been a failed experiment. And it should have been closed down a long time ago. My proposal is to try to find a private entity that would come in and take it over and let them try to run it at break even or for a profit. And if we can't find that person, it needs to be shut down and sold. It's time to stop the bleeding. $6 million in total losses to the Coffee County taxpayers, that's more than enough. Thank you.
That was John Constantine. We'll bring it back down to this end of the table, and Mr. Pennington will give you 3 minutes here to address this question.
Okay, so a couple years ago I was asked to be put on that board. They asked me to come, and I did agree to do that. And we have slowly, we are stopping the bleeding and we are turning around. But let me say something about the PBA board. How's it made up? You've got 2 bankers, 2 engineers, a retired colonel, and 2 business people on that board. I think every one of them that on that board are very successful people. And yes, it does lose money, but there is a motel tax that the city of Manchester gets, and in the agreement was that if Manchester could get the motel tax, they agreed not to annex the industrial park so that they could market the industrial park as a one tax park, which has turned out to be a good thing. And not only have they done that, also when that building is paid for in 3 years, I know the county has put a lot of money in it, but the county's going to end up with the building. The building goes to the county. So Manchester has benefited from the motel tax, but also the county is going to end up with a building that's going to have a high marketable value. But also, let's think about the sales tax here too. The first half of the sales tax always goes to the schools. There's a lot of sales tax generated because of the conference center. And where did Tullahoma have their chamber get together in this community? They had it at the conference center. Why? Because there's no place in this community that you can have a large event. And yes, it does cost. But in the long run, the county will get their money back through the building. Manchester has got they're getting their money back through the motel. The school system gets the sales tax. And so, at some time, and let me just say this, Rebecca French is the manager out there, and she was through in the middle of where the employee that was managing it, and when I was put on the board, she'd already been hired, and I'm going to take responsibility because I'm on the board. I'm not saying I am responsible because I agreed to be on the board, so I'm going to take responsibility. But that lady embezzled a lot of money from the conference center, and she used our maintenance money for our equipment repair. She used that to keep the conference center going. So yes, it has lost a lot of money, but there's a lot of value to that. And like I said, Rebecca French is young, and she's done a very good job. She works hard out there, and we are turning it around. And we do have responsible PBA board members. And if they want to do something different, there's 7 people on that board. So you talk to them if you have that issue, and you can get their names from the mayor's office.
All right, that was David Pennington. And next we have Mayor Cordell. Mayor, do you need me to repeat that question, please? All right. With the current fiscal year nearing an end and the Manchester Coffee County Conference Center projected to lose $330,000 for the year, that will put the center's losses nearing $900,000 over the past 2 years. The average taxpayer appears to be losing patience with this practice. How do you propose minimizing losses for the conference center and bringing that situation under better fiscal control? 3 minutes.
Let me mention, Johnson, that the oversight of that is under the Public Building Authority Board, as has been mentioned. When I came into this office almost 4 years ago, right off the bat, we started structuring that and looking at that. I was, with what I heard and what came forward, I was somewhat concerned about the future of this, and right off the bat, we talked about looking at selling the structure and trying to minimize our losses and get out of it. But when you get into the contract that was laid out years ago, that is a mutual agreement between the city of Manchester and the county in which we're locked in for those full 20 years. We do owe this year's payment and 3 more years on it. It will be paid off in 2021. Now, according to the research that our county attorney did on that, the quitclaim deed claims that to the Public Building Authority, not to the county or Manchester City. But that goes to the Public Building Authority. Over the years, we've looked at different provisions on changing some things out there. Again, the structure of that, the oversight is not for the mayor's office at all, but it rests in the Public Building Authority, as the former mayor here said. But a lot of things have been looked at, and to sell that, though, you'd have to have a mutual agreement between Manchester City and the county, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. I did go before Manchester and suggest, after thinking about that, and we looked at different options. I know it's been, every year, it's heavily vetted through our budget and finance committee. They look at the oversight of that, and every year they make a decision as to how much the county will put in this year. As has been stated, it does bring other revenue to this area, but Manchester City will get the hotel and motel tax from that by law and get the sales tax. So the county is not getting that portion. So I did recommend to Manchester City back last fall that you think about changing that percentage split to equalize this and go 70-30, because you're getting some share of hotel and motel tax and sales tax that's coming into Manchester City, not to the county. So it's a very complex and complicated situation, but by agreement, by contract, as it was set up years ago in 2002, The ownership of that that's split for 20 years, the mortgage payment and the losses between Manchester City and the county. Very complicated situation. Again, Budget Finance has looked at that numerous times as to how going forward to try to minimize that loss and the cost of the county taxpayer. But it's a complicated situation.
All right, thank you. That was Gary Cordell. And Lucky will have the next question.
Thanks, Josh. All right. Going down, Mr. Brown. Gary. Okay. All right, Mr. Allen, this question is for you. What experience do you have to justify overseeing a multi-million-dollar county budget?
I have 35 years experience. I'm a certified public accountant. I graduated from UTC with honors in accounting. I've worked on numerous budgets across the state of Tennessee, providing assistance and preparation for counties, working with county audit. I was the finance director for the city of Manchester, director of accounts and budgets for Coffee County. Today, we're providing assistance to 3 cities, budget preparation and financial statement preparation on a monthly basis at my office. Extreme experience in budgeting and accounting and financial statements preparation. It's been my life work. It's been my love, providing public service for y'all through budgets and financial statements. Thank you.
Mr. Constantine.
Well, I've actually personally managed in my own company a budget larger than the Coffee County budget currently is. I've worked with companies like Deloitte & Touche, which are large auditing companies. I've worked with budgets that I would get in monthly, stacked that high with print so small that you couldn't read them. I'm extremely good at going through a budget and finding what I call the fat and or mistakes that are made there. I'm extremely comfortable. I've managed hundreds of employees at a time. I'm extremely comfortable managing large amounts of money. And I don't think that I would have any problem. As a matter of fact, if you go to the controller's office, the state of Tennessee, all the county budgets are there. They're posted there, and I've reviewed every one of them. And that's where I've came up with some of the insight that I have in the changes that I want to make to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. David.
Okay, so I have 8 years as being the county mayor, but also we have one of the best budget directors that I've ever seen. Mariana Ettinger is the sharper budget director that I've ever seen. And also, I have managed and been in partnership with multi-million-dollar warehouse firm and a trucking company, like I told you before. So there's where my experience comes from.
Gary Cordell.
Serving as your mayor, it's again an honor, but it's a learning experience, and we've learned a lot. As the former mayor said, Miss Ettinger is one of the sharpest accountants in this state. She runs a very tight ship. She's on top of her game. She and I talk almost daily about the budget, and we are in the process now of coming forward and submitting to Budget Finance the proposed budget for this year. I went through those departments last week, line to line, department by department, and made some tweaks on some of those that I have oversight over. But it's a very complicated process. We do have, now unlike what the other mayors may think, when you come in as mayor, you don't have the authority to go in and say, we're going to cut this, that, or whatever. In the state of Tennessee, where the system was set up in 1978, with 10 constitutionally elected offices, each of those departments have the authority to prepare their own budget. The mayor cannot come in and just simply go in and say, we're going to cut your budget. We don't have a law. We can't do that. That's illegal. But as far as oversight of the county, we do have an extremely good budget finance department. Mr. Briggen, who is the chair of that and has been for years, is also a CPA and has been the former CEO of a bank. And I would mention that at UTC, I also graduated from there and had a degree in business administration with a minor in accounting and economics. And I spent several years at Blue Cross in Chattanooga in the budget finance department preparing budgets there. So I have some experience in that. But I tried to review every budget and every line, and we're going to have some cuts that need to be made in a couple areas in this year's budget for sure, some serious cuts, so that we can manage that and have a budget without a tax increase. We've gone 3 years now without a tax increase. We should not have one this year, and pay down on our debt about 11%. But that takes financial oversight and management, and you have to make some tough calls. And but it's an honor to serve and try to do that. But we have a good budget finance committee, and I assure you, they go through with a fine-tooth comb vetting every budget. And there's not the fat there that a lot of people may think there is. The fat is not there. About 8% of the cost of every budget is wages and benefits. So some of those budgets this year coming in at maybe 1% over last year or 2%. So we're trying to run a very fine, sharp operation in accounting and budget.
Mr. Brown, do you need it repeated?
No, sir.
Okay.
In 2006, during Hurricane Katrina, the United States Army Corps of Engineers hired me, sent me to New Orleans to oversee the rebuilding of a hospital and a school. They gave me $16 million. The way I managed the money down there, I worked strictly with the contractors. I overseen them. I watched them every day. I done daily reports and weekly reports turned into the Corps of Engineers, and when the project was finished, I spent $11 million. So I had $5 million left over. Thank you.
All right. That was Tim Brown. I believe we're ready for our next question, and I think John Constantine gets this one first. A lot of talk in that last round about debt, so conveniently that's where we're headed for our next question. The county debt is currently at approximately $80 million. A lot of that tied up in your yearly constructed building fund, your jail, things like that. Right now, the county school system about to request about $25 million for more upgrades to their school system, and the jail already is at full capacity. How do you propose funding these needs while minimizing the impact on property taxes and the taxpayer?
Well, you mentioned the jail, and I propose that we actually audit our judicial system from the top to the bottom. It's a little outdated. If you go to TennesseeDepartmentOfCorrections.com, the sheriff of every county submits a report, talks about the number of beds available, how many of them are full, how many of them are pretrial felonies, misdemeanors, convictions, how many of them are TDOC people that were getting reimbursed for housing. And Coffee County has the highest rate of pretrial misdemeanor offenders in the state. We have more people sitting in jail for minor offenses than Davidson County, Shelby County, which includes Memphis, Rutherford County. And so my first proposal would be to change the way we treat minor offenders. One way to do that is you write them a summons instead of taking them to jail, booking them in jail, and setting a bond that they can't afford to get out. The other thing you do is you actually update your bonding system. Right now, it's this crime, it's $2,500. But it doesn't take into consideration is, have you lived in this county for 40 years? Do you have a job? Are you married? Or are you from Florida? They get the same bond either way. So we spend $2.5 million a year out of the jail housing pretrial misdemeanor offenders that are people that should be out and working and taking care of their families instead of increasing that burden even more on taxpayers. And then we can bring in more Tennessee Department of Corrections inmates that we get reimbursed for to offset the cost of the new jail. So that's one of the big things that I see that's going to make a big change. And then once you get that money, you save that money, then you reallocate it. And they keep saying, I keep hearing it's complicated, but it's really not that complicated. And so if you increase your revenue from Bonnaroo for $1.5 million, and you cut $2.5 million worth of expenses out of the jail, that's $4 million, and you shut down the conference center, all of a sudden we've got $4.5 million a year that we can do different things with. We can concentrate on school safety programs, and trying to fulfill the needs of our students by these expansions that we need to make and get our kids out of portables. Thank you.
All right, that was John Constantine. Before we bring it back down here to David Pennington for our radio audience, we got to take a quick break for some technical issues. We'll be back in about just 1 minute, so everybody just stay where you're at. We're going to disconnect and reconnect our radio feed, and we'll bring that same question back to David Pennington. Okay, everybody, we're back. Sorry about that little bit of an interruption we had there. We had to take a break for our radio audience. So if we can settle back down real quick, we'll move back along and take the same question we were just on to David Pennington. And for those of you that don't know, this is being broadcast live on Thunder Radio, 1320 AM and 107.9 FM. Back to David Pennington, same question. The county debt right now is approximately at $80 million. Much of this tied up in newly constructed jail and the county schools building fund. The county school system has approached the County Commission of Budget and Finance about a $25 million project for improvements to the school and necessary upgrades. And the jail currently is near or at full capacity for what it was built for. How do you propose funding some of these needs while minimizing the impact on property tax rates and the citizens of Coffee County?
Okay, so really, as of today, the debt is not 80 million, it's 71 million. And
My fault, sorry.
Okay.
71 million.
Okay, and 67 million of that is the jail and schools, okay? And so, how could we manage that? I'll tell you how we managed it, the same way you did when I was mayor, when there was 180 people in jail. We went to the district attorney, we went to the judges, we went to the probation department, and we worked out a deal where they wouldn't put people in jail just for not paying their child support. Give them a chance to get caught up and deal with it that way. And we managed, from the time I was mayor until we built a new jail, we managed to do that with the help of the DA, the help of the judges, the help of Heather, and the probation. That's how you do it. You work as a team, not to put people in jail if you can. And that's how you save your money. And on the schools, right now they have the way I understand it, I'm not the mayor now, and I haven't been up to the budget and finance meeting, but the way I understand it, they're going to have some rural infrastructure money coming out, and they're going to have some stuff paid for. So they're going to be able to do about $10 million without raising property taxes, and that's the way you need to do it. And they're going to do, I think, New Union and North Crawford. Is that right, Mayor? So that's how you handle that.
All right, thank you, David Pennington. Same question to Mayor Cordell. Mayor, do you need it repeated?
No.
All right, go ahead.
As I just mentioned, the former mayor, yes, we have, the school system has proposed a long-term program in 2 phases, totaling about $25 million. We've looked at the first 2 schools being about $5 million for North Coffee and $5 for New Union. And yes, we have already crunched some figures on that, and we can do that with no tax increase, the way we're funding that, over the next 20 years. Okay, and that's critically important. Now, the reason we're doing those 2 schools first is with the growth coming out of Rutherford County, we've got to gear up for that. North Coffee currently has about 320 students, but with the upgrades there, that will hold about 500 students. Going forward, as it relates to the jail budget and whatever, one thing I did find out and did some research, and I have requested CTAS, the County Technical Assistance Service, to do a full-scale audit and review of the entire jail program, probation, all the sentencing, the way that we're assessing the bonds, and whatever, the whole 9 yards, to come back and see what we do better. I do know that the incarceration rate in Coffee County has been, since 2002, per 1,000 people, well over 4 people per 1,000 people. In the study nationwide, that figure is only about 2 million, about 2.25 people per 1,000 people. So the rate in Coffee County for many years has been almost double the national average, as he indicated a while ago. Now, as far as how to structure some of this and go forward, I haven't talked with the sheriff on this. I wanted to today, Sheriff, but never got to meet with him. Reviewing that budget, and I've already discussed this with the our budget director, with the massive increase that we have this year coming in from some departments, and with the increase in the jail budget for the annex, I have talked with 2 or 3 of the Budget and Finance Committee members already, suggesting we look at July 1 just completely closing the annex. And with that, that would save the county right at $500,000 doing that. That will transfer them back to the main jail, but that'll save about $500,000. And we're also looking at redoing the bonds. That's 3 notes, 3 bonds, 9, 9, and $4 million. And the state of Tennessee says you never finance an infrastructure longer than its estimated useful life. The state has talked to them. They've already said that it won't last that long. We've already reworked $9 million, and the way we're doing that, cutting it down to 25 years, paying another $100,000 per year, that will save our taxpayers about $3 million in doing that one step. So we're trying to save your tax dollars every day.
All right, thank you, Mayor Cordell. And next will be Tim Brown. Tim, do you need the question repeated?
No, sir. The debt is better today than it was in the prior administration, but we need to do more. Every dollar wasted is a dollar that we could be used to pay down on the county's debt. Last year, just the interest on the county's debt was $3.2 million. That $3.2 million could be used somewhere else or left in the taxpayers' pockets. We need to stop the waste, stop the overspending, and start generating more business revenue. Overspending, overborrowing is not enough revenue. There's not enough revenue coming in for this. It's a mess. After David Pennington's 8 years as mayor, Coffee County had $8 million in debt, which is, like he said, it's not his fault. A school and a jail had to have it. 4 years later, the total debt is $74 million, 71, 74. but we haven't fixed the spending, the borrowing, or increased the revenue enough. Last year, the interest on the county debt, like I said, was $3.2 million, and that's just the interest. Stop the wasteful spending, look for ways to be more efficient, borrow as little as we can, and only if we have, only if we have it, only if we have to, only borrow if we have to, and make those changes to get businesses to come into Coffee County.
All right, that was Tim Brown. And last, we have Mark Allen on this question. Do you need it repeated?
No, I think I've got this one. We have issued in the past massive amounts of debt that exceed the life of the assets. In the mid-90s, we went through a renovation program of our schools here. Those renovations are at the end of their life. So but I'm not going to address the needs of that now. I will address one thing. Public safety of our children come first. We have other needs we need to address right now before the renovations of a school. We've got needs at our high school to get that school secured. That comes first. Public safety of our children especially comes before the needs of North Coffee maybe being out a little bit of space or needing some additional cafeteria space. I hate to stress that, but I went to a class and listened to the Officer Ray speak. In the response time that we have now, 12 children get shot before we can get an officer there. We need to harden our schools and get security on our schools first before we address any further spending. We need to take care of our county employees. These public servants are dedicated. They've hung with us through thick and thin and been overlooked for years. It's time to bring it up. We've got to do something about our most valuable asset first. We've got to come up with a focused spending plan. We've got a plan for these buildings and these renovations in the future. And I'm the person that can give us that plan. With my experience, we have to have one. We have to know what the needs are going to be in the future, or we're not going to be able to meet the needs for our children and grandchildren. The jail we'll be building a new jail before that one's paid off.
About 10 seconds.
We'll be building new schools before these are paid off. Thank you.
All right. That was Mark Allen. I think we've gotten to everybody on this question. We're pushed up against our time, but we're gonna run this one over just a little bit and give everybody 1 minute for closing remarks. We'll start with David Pennington.
Okay, since I've been retired as county mayor, there's two things that people tell me they want. They want more good paying jobs and they want more retail. While I was mayor, with the help of one of the best industrial boards in the state, the two cities and a good commission, we were able to recruit $240.6 million worth of industrial development. And that's only in buildings and equipment. And we generated 2,968 good paying industrial jobs. Now folks, when you get that kind of investment in your community, retail will follow the money. And so if elected again, I'm going to strive to work on more jobs and more retail.
All right, thank you. That was David Pennington, and next 1 minute for Mayor Gary Cordell.
Thank you again. It's an honor to serve the people of our county. At the end of the day, the most basic question you need to ask yourself is, going forward, when I step into the voting booth, who is best qualified to lead this county? We can talk about other issues and whatever all day long, but who is best qualified? I would submit to you that with 30 plus years of business management and leadership experience, I can help move Coffee County forward. We are looking at other jobs, other businesses coming in. That's a very complicated process. Having said that, though, I just want to ask you this question. With the past 4 years of the experience and education I've gained and getting the certificate that I mentioned to you, I feel I'm the best qualified person to move our county forward. A lot has been accomplished. A lot of groundwork's been laid, but there's a lot of work to still be done. Our theme is let's stay on track. And I ask for your support in moving the county forward, and thank you for your support.
All right. That was Mayor Gary Cordell. Next we have Tim Brown. 1 minute.
Coffee County is not a very business-friendly county. We need to look at our zoning, our plan, and then fix the problems. We've had complaints and lost businesses here in the future. We need to fix this. Love's Truck Stop. Everybody's heard about Love's Truck Stop. They fought with the county for 8 months to try to come into Coffee County. They finally won, but they're going to bring $20 million investment to our county, 40 full-paying jobs, property taxes, sales taxes, business taxes. So we desperately need them. Bonnaroo, we need to be a better partner with them and try not to run them off. We need their revenue. Wright Paving Company's been trying to come into town for years. Over the past 14 years, they've spent $10 million in the county doing jobs. If they're trying to open a quarry up in Hillsboro, if they open up, it's going to have 15 jobs, property taxes, sales taxes, and severance taxes. So we need their business. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, but we've got to grow. We need the tax dollars.
That was Tim Brown. And next we have Mark Allen.
We need a change of direction. We need to take action. We've got many issues facing this county into the future. We've got deep debt that we have to meet those needs. We have all kinds of issues. We've got conference centers losing money. We've got to take action. Now's the time to take action. 4 more years from now, the situation is going to be worse. We need to be focused with a vision for Coffee County and grow the county, become more business friendly, and grow the county and grow out of our situation. Thank you.
All right, that was Mark Allen. And last we have John Constantine. 1 minute.
I want to remind everybody, we're all up here today, that it's actually David Pennington and I are running on a Democratic ticket. And I want to, David has a tremendous advantage on me. Everybody in Coffee County knows David. He's got name recognition. I've known him for 35 years. I ate his restaurant for probably thousands of times, as you can tell. But we have a very different vision for where this county needs to go. David also has an 8-year track record than when he was the mayor before. And that included 6 tax hikes, one of them the largest property tax hike in the history of the county, quadruple our debt from $20 million to $80 million a year, and tried to pass a wheel tax. And I'm not for any of that. I think that we have got to sharpen our pencil, cut down our debt, put money back in your pockets, because we take way too much money out of individuals' pockets and spend it on things that don't need to be spent on. Thank you.
John Constantine, and he did bring up a good point. I want everybody to understand, we decided to bring all of the candidates up. They're going to be split up in these primaries that are coming up next month. David Pennington and John Constantine will be in the Democratic primary. If you vote in the Democratic primary in May, Mayor Cordell and Mark Allen will be on the Republican primary. If you're voting in the Republican primary, you'll be choosing one of those. And Tim Brown will not be on ballot in the primary. He's running as an independent. So you'll see him on the ballot in August. With that, we'd like to thank our mayor's candidates for coming out tonight and for their participation and their willingness to run. to take about a 5-minute break, and at 7:19 we will return with Teresa McFadden, candidate for county clerk.